So we can see where we are at any time in terms of how the mode's material nature. And sometimes we see that we're on the end where there's some destruction coming because there are problems that can't be solved. Of course, the ultimate solution is to chant Hare Krishna and not be under the jurisdiction of creation and maintenance and dissolution. And that's the whole goal of life, is not to get swept up in that. Text 10. O pure-hearted ones, your Father, Prachinabharhi, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead have ordered you to generate population. Therefore, how can you burn to ashes these trees and herbs which are needed for the maintenance of your subjects and descendants? Okay, so he's trying to get him to put two and two together. This is the food source. It's needed. He traces out, Soma traces out the food chain. It's not that people eat the trees. No, some trees they do eat. Or plants. Some plants they do eat, not necessarily trees, but but he traces out the food chain, how the lower living entities eat the plants and grasses, and then the bigger living entities eat those living entities, and then the cows and the deer and the four-legged animals eat the grasses, and then human beings have a choice. They can eat the grasses too, or they can eat the animals that eat the grasses. But everything depends on the vegetation. So, because the Lord has supplied this vegetation to be the food source for all the other living entities, either directly or indirectly. Text 11. The path of goodness traversed by your father, grandfather, and great-grandfathers is that of maintaining the subjects, prajas, including the men, animals, and trees. That is the path you should follow. Unnecessary anger is contrary to your duty. Therefore, I request you to control your anger. Okay, reminding them of their duty. Trying to sober them up a little bit here. Prabhupada's commentary. Here the words Pitra Pitamahenapi Justam Va Pratipamahai depict an honest royal family consisting of kings, their father, their grandfather, their great-grandfathers. Such a royal family has a prestigious position because it maintains the citizens, or prajas. The word praja refers to one who has taken birth within the jurisdiction of the government. The exalted royal families were conscious of all living beings, whether human, animal, or lower than animal, and should be given protection. The modern democratic system cannot be exalted in this way because the leaders elected strive only for power and have no sense of responsibility. Oh, isn't that the case? In a monarchy, a king with a prestigious position follows the great deeds of his forefathers. Thus, Soma, the king of the moon, here reminds the Prachetas about the glories of their father, grandfather, and great-grandfathers. So, yeah, that if we see that, how coming down in a royal family, these exalted royal families, of course, that's Kali Yuga has pretty much, it's not available now in Kali Yuga. Maharaj Parikshit was the last king, really, and after that, no one was really qualified to be in that post. But we can see how it works. Because of the lineage, the responsibility comes down from father to son through it's a kind of succession. And the children are raised to take the responsibilities. It's like in a family. It's really an extended family, which includes all living entities. But in a family, the when the parents become old, and then when they pass away, then their children, their offspring, take responsibility for the rest of the family. That's just natural for human beings in a healthy state. And they take care of the older children, or actually all the children, but especially the older children. They will take responsibility for the elderly parents as they're not able to do so many things, as their bodies are deteriorating. And they will look after the rest of the family also. They take on that responsibility. So in these royal families, their sense of family is greatly expanded. This is what a real king or a real ruler is like. Everyone is his family. All the creatures, they're all his family. So that when that king becomes elderly and gives up his duties, his heirs, those that inherit, they inherit the family responsibilities. They inherit that family, that consciousness. It's very natural. You could see how natural that would be when there's Krishna consciousness. And the royal family is Krishna conscious, being guided by the Brahmins and qualified leader. This is what a qualified leader is. We have no idea in this age what qualified leadership is. And Arjuna, 5,000 years ago, he saw what was going to be coming. That's one of the reasons he didn't want to fight the Battle of Kurukshetra. He saw this coming. There'll be no good leaders. No one will be protected, especially the women. And then there'll be all these unwanted offspring, all this progeny. Family traditions will be lost. The whole thing will break down. All of human society will break down. And Krishna said, well, it's time for Kali Yuga, so this is what we're going to do. You're going to fight. But Arjuna could see it. And that was why he hesitated. Why am I doing this? Do I think I could gain something by causing this huge ripple which will go down through generation after generation for thousands and thousands of years? What do I think I can gain? A little kingdom right now for my puny little life? Why? And then Krishna explained. Krishna wanted it. It's time for Kali Yuga. It's like winter season. And cosmic season, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. This brought in the Kali Yuga. The winter. And in with Kali Yuga comes Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sankirtan. The Lord be manifesting his most merciful incarnation, giving what's not available at any other time. Except when he appears as himself, Krishna. But even then, there's something very special about Lord Chaitanya's mercy, because he's in the mood of a devotee. So, the Lord's pastimes are like that. The stage is set. He appears in the Kali Yuga like this. Well, he's appeared in this Kali Yuga anyway. We're the recipients. But this is what the king is. His sense of family is expanded to include all living entities, and he feels responsible that justice and harmony should be there. He oversees the Varnashram system. Now, this planet isn't the only planet that there's Varnashram. It may be a little differently manifested, but it's present throughout the whole creation. the varnas and ashrams. We were reading about that in, I think, the 5th Canto, Part 1, how on the different varsas, the different areas, the different planets, this varnashram is present. So this is who these kings are. The great exalted souls. And so this passes down in that family. It's a type of succession. Just like the family, what's left of it in this age, is the older children inherit the property of their parents. If their parents have some property, have accumulated some assets, or maybe they have also inherited assets from their family. So in this age, it's very unfortunate. Everyone's in debt. They have nothing to give to their children, so it's horrible. But sometimes there is something coming down, and the older children inherit it to manage it. So that's what happens in these royal families. It comes down. What does the king have? He has the kingdom and all the praja. They're his. They're his extended family and assets. He hands it down to his son, who then becomes the head of the family. Now that can deteriorate over time, and then Krishna has ways of correcting that. But that's and that having that system for leadership, you can see here, is so far superior, because there's that sense of responsibility for everyone and everything. Whereas having elections every so many years and some new character come in there, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It says that modern democratic system cannot be exalted in that way because they strive only for power. And they have no sense of responsibility. So the king, in a prestigious position, follows the great deeds of his forefathers. He has inherited his position from his great forefathers. So Soma is reminding these prachetas, you have inherited something. What about your inheritance? So he reminds the prachetas about the glories of their father, grandfather, and great-grandfathers. 12. As the father and mother are the friends and maintainers of their children, as the eyelids are the protector of the eye, as the husband is the maintainer and protector of a woman, as the householder is the maintainer and protector of beggars, and as the learned is the friend of the ignorant, so the king is the protector and giver of life to all his subjects. The trees are also subjects of the king, therefore they should be given protection. We get the whole picture here. Real leadership. Not available in Kali Yuga. Prabhupada's commentary. By the supreme will of the personality of Godhead, there are various protectors and maintainers for helpless living entities. The trees are also considered prajas, subject of the king, and therefore the duty of the monarch is to protect even the trees, not to speak of others. The king is duty-bound to protect the living entities in his kingdom. Thus, although the parents are directly responsible for the protection and maintenance of their children, the duty of the king is to see that all parents do their duty properly. Similarly, the king is also responsible for overseeing the other protectors mentioned in this verse. It may also be noted that the beggars, who should be maintained by householders, are not professional beggars, but sannyasis and Brahmins to whom the householders should supply food and clothing. So the way the king protects his citizens is to see that they are protecting who they're supposed to be protecting. In other words, this whole line of responsibility goes all the way down the chain. And that's what that means, that performing their duties properly. Everyone is responsible for protecting someone. Everyone is interconnected like that. The trees and the vegetation are maintaining everyone's life, either directly or indirectly. So let's look at that again. That's really good. The father and mother are the friends and maintainers of their children. Okay, that's really obvious. That if one has children, the children are the dependents on the parents, and they're to provide for them in all ways. And give them spiritual guidance as well as make sure that they have necessities of life and natural affection. Maintainers of their children. The eyelid is the protector of the eye. Okay? The husband is the maintainer and protector of a woman. This is actually what makes a marriage work. Is the maintainer and protector of the wife. It's a very nice arrangement. Maintain and protect the wife, and the wife serves the husband, protects his senses by preparing nice food stuff and helping him to control his senses. So the husband is the maintainer and protector of a woman. The householder is the maintainer and protector of beggars. And Prabhupada clears up that beggars doesn't mean professional beggars. It means the sannyasis and the Brahmins. They are dependent on the householders for their foodstuffs and their maintenance, their clothing, because they're not engaged in the kind of work that produces those things. They're engaged in performing sacrifices, studying the scriptures, teaching, guiding, giving good counsel, like this. And the learned is the friend of the ignorant. Those that have knowledge, then they try to guide those that don't. So the king is the protector and giver of life to all his subjects. And how does he do that? By seeing that everyone is doing their duty properly. The father and the mother, they're maintaining their children nicely. The husband is maintaining the wife nicely. The householder is giving in charity to the Brahmins and the sannyasis. Those that have knowledge are teaching in this way. So he says the trees are also subjects of the king, and they should be given protection. Trying to get these prachetas to get out of this blind rage they've gotten themselves into here. Prabhupada's commentary. By the supreme will of the personality of Godhead, there are various protectors and maintainers for helpless living entities. Okay, so we read that. Go on to text 13. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated as the supersoul within the cores of the hearts of all living entities, whether moving or non-moving, including men, birds, animals, trees, and indeed all living entities. Therefore, you should consider everybody a residence or temple of the Lord. By such vision, you will satisfy the Lord. You should not angrily kill these living entities in the forms of trees. Okay, so we are not these bodies. Now, Soma is getting to that point that the supersoul is within the heart of all living entities. Should consider every body a residence or temple of the Lord. And by such vision, you will satisfy the Lord. Okay, Prabhupada's commentary. As stated in Bhagavad Gita and confirmed by all Vedic scriptures, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshwarjuna Tishtati. The Supersoul is situated within everyone's heart. Therefore, since everyone's body is the residence of the Supreme Lord, one should not destroy the body because of unnecessary envy. That will dissatisfy the Supersoul. Soma told the Prachetas that because they had tried to satisfy the Supersoul, now they should not displease him. Yeah, they were performing all those austerities in the ocean, trying to get some mercy of one form or another, and now they come out, as soon as they come out of the water, they spoil the whole thing by attacking these living entities in the forms of trees. Soma is really pleading the case here. He's thinking of everything he can to help the Prachetas get out of their anger, which is hard to do because the anger has to wind down. But he's giving them good instruction. So one should not destroy the body because of unnecessary envy. And that will dissatisfy the Supersoul. Text 14. One who inquires into self-realization and thus subdues his powerful anger, which awakens suddenly in the body as if falling from the sky, transcends the influence of the modes of material nature. Yeah, this anger, it really very powerful. And he says here, which awakens suddenly in the body as if falling from the sky. So, one who inquires into self-realization and subdues his powerful anger. Yeah, this anger. In one sense, can understand that when there's anger, in this previous purport, Prabhupada, was it the purport of the verse? He also mentions the word envy. I think it was it in the verse or the purport? Yeah, Prabhupada mentions the word envy also. One should not destroy the body because of unnecessary envy. So we're getting some hint here of where this anger comes from. It comes from envy of Krishna, envy of the Supersoul within the heart. This enviousness. But by seeing, becoming conscious, and inquiring into self-realization, that the Supersoul is there within the heart of all living entities, then that envy will stop, and along with it, the anger. You can recognize that every living entity is serving Krishna, either directly or indirectly. that no one is acting independently, really. Either acting in devotional service out of love and devotion for the Lord, or acting in ignorance, being directed by action and reaction within the modes of material nature. The supersoul is there within the heart of every living entity, whether they're serving directly or indirectly. So to aim this unnecessary violence and anger toward another living entity, really aiming it at Krishna. You're really angry at Krishna. Why? Usually because of desires within the heart, wanting something, wanting to be recognized, wanting to be Krishna, wanting to be as good as God, wanting to be as good as the supersoul, something like that. So it causes a problem. So it's envious of the actual supersoul. But one who sees the supersoul within the heart of all living entities, the plants, the trees, the people, the birds, they're not going to, such a person isn't going to cause unnecessary problems for any of the other living entities. Is going to be very, very careful not to disturb others in their service to Krishna, whether they're serving directly or indirectly. And they're going to want to simply engage in devotional service to please Krishna. They're not going to be causing confrontation with others, because any confrontation with others is really a confrontation with Supersoul, causing a problem for those living entities. So Soma is reminding them that this is the way to subdue this anger, is to inquire into self-realization and recognize the Supersoul within the heart of all living entities. Then where's the anger? Who are you angry at? Krishna is the supreme controller. He's in everyone's heart. Everyone's serving him either directly or indirectly, and you're angry. That's the ignorance. That's the ignorance. So, he says this anger awakens suddenly in the body as if falling from the sky. Yeah, I don't know where it comes from. You have to stay awake. You have to become situated in self-realization, not to be victimized by this. So it can just come right out of the blue, is basically what's being said. Just, where did it come from? I don't know, but I'm angry. I forgot Krishna. That's why chanting 24 hours a day, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the best protection from falling into this kind of illusion and forgetting that everyone is serving Krishna, either directly or indirectly. So, that's how we transcend the influence of the modes of material nature and anger. Prabhupada's commentary. When one becomes angry, he forgets himself and his situation. But if one is able to consider his situation by knowledge, one transcends the influence of the modes of material nature. One is always a servant of lusty desires, anger, greed, illusion, envy, and so forth. But if one obtains sufficient strength in spiritual advancement, one can control them. One who obtains such control will always be transcendentally situated, untouched by the modes of material nature. This is only possible when one fully engages in the service of the Lord. Okay, there it is. One is always, let's say that again, always a servant of lusty desires, anger, greed, illusion, envy, and so forth. No one's free from that. But if one obtains sufficient strength in spiritual advancement, can control them. And one who obtains such control will always be transcendentally situated, untouched by the modes of material nature. And then Prabhupada explains how to control. It is only possible fully engages in the service of the Lord. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Mam chayo vyavacharina bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. Translation: one who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and comes to the spiritual platform. End of translation. By engaging one in devotional service, the Krishna consciousness movement keeps one always transcendental to anger, greed, lust, envy, and so forth. One must perform devotional service because otherwise one will become victimized by the modes of material nature. By engaging one in devotional service, the Krishna consciousness movement keeps one always transcendental to anger, greed, lust, envy, and so forth. It's not that they go away. They're there. They're going to be there. The anger, the greed, the lust, it's all going to be there. But by performing devotional service, we not become victimized. Hare Krishna. Maybe there's going to be a little more discussion here because I kind of tend to want to think that you can someday become completely free from anger, greed, lust, envy, and so forth. You know, like complete, pure devotional service. But we'll see what the discussion is on that. At least we know that if we perform devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, we don't become victimized by the material modes of nature, and we remain on the spiritual platform. So that's nothing to turn a nose up at. That's pretty good. And we can just go from there. So if we experience those things, we're practicing devotional service, we're chanting our rounds, we're doing all kinds of service, we're going on Sankirtan, we're serving in the temple, we're doing preaching programs, we're making our home as Krishna conscious as we can, like this. And we're still out of the blue, anger is coming, lust is coming, greed is coming, envy is coming. Why is this coming from? I'm practicing devotional service. So Prabhupada says not to worry about that they're going to be there. But we keep performing devotional service and we won't be victimized by the modes of material nature. Eventually, those things have to go away. Although all of those emotions are present in a purified form in the different leelas and pastimes of the Lord, which we've been reading Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in the evenings. And we're seeing different instances of when someone became angry at Krishna, someone became greedy to have something more in relation to Krishna, someone was lusty toward Krishna. Said that the only one that really can't be purified is envy. So we'll learn more about these things as we go. But so evidently they don't go away. They're part of our character, but they become purified in relationship to Krishna. They become angry in relation to Krishna. about something. But it's different than what the Prachetas were doing, because it's in Krishna consciousness. And here we see the Prachetas were not conscious of their duty, they were not conscious of Supersoul, they were just been performing austerities, they'd become very harsh and stiff and rigid, and they were angry. So it's different than if someone is angry because something in relation to Krishna. It's a little different. Oh, okay. Yeah. I think of something angry. Abhimanyu, the pastime with Abhimanyu, when Krishna dressed up like Abhimanyu and went to his home. And his mother thought he was Abhimanyu, her son, and his family thought it was Abhimanyu. And then the real Abhimanyu was coming toward the house. And Krishna, dressed up like Abhimanyu, disguised as Abhimanyu, pointed him out and said, "Look at that, that's Krishna coming here, and he's making himself look like me." And they all got angry at Abhimanyu and started chasing him away. So that's a little different than the Prachetas burning all the trees down with fire coming out of their eyes. That's pastime with Krishna. They became angry at their own son. Krishna bewildered them. They wanted Krishna more, chased their own son away. It's funny.